Terence "Bud" Crawford is arguably one of the most complete boxers in the world today and is in the top 3 in many people's pound for pound lists. His unique style of being able to switch and fight from both stances with ease naturally is something you don't see often and makes him a true puzzle for any opponent that faces him. In this boxing style analysis today, I'll be taking a closer look at Crawford's background, his accomplishments, and of course his switch stance boxing style. But real quick, I just wanted to say a huge thank you to the sponsor of today's video, Corner. Corner have created one of the world's best punch tracker systems, which will help you see your punch progress not only over months, but in weeks in real time. So if you don't have a coach or are training from home, you can let this tech keep you accountable for all your hard work. Corner also have live on-demand workouts with real punch time stats for both Android and iOS, where you can challenge friends or others on a live leaderboard. New classes are added each week to keep you progressing, whether it's your first time boxing or you're an experienced fighter. I have an exclusive discount for both trackers and this membership in the description below. But now, let's get right back into the video. First up, let's look at Crawford's background. Crawford is originally from Omaha, Nebraska, which is of course not really known for producing the best boxers in the US. However, they certainly have a claim now in having one of the world's best in Terence Crawford. Starting his career back in 2008, Crawford has slowly developed himself over the years into one of the most complete fighters we've seen today in the sport of boxing. Terence Crawford himself is now a 3-weight world champion, starting at lightweight where he won his first world title back in my home country against Scottish boxer Ricky Burns in 2014 for the WBO World Lightweight title. He then went on to have 2 notable wins over Gamboa and Beltran before moving up in weight. Bud then went on to fight at super lightweight, where he has had most of his success as professional to date. In 2017, Crawford became the first boxer to hold all 4 major world titles in boxing since Jermaine Taylor in 2005, and is one of only 9 boxers in history to do so, male or female. After claiming all belts at super lightweight, Bud made the obvious move up to welterweight, where he has so far claimed the WBO belt against Jeff Horn. However, with Crawford fighting under the top rank promotion, he struggled to get those big fights against the likes of Errol Spence, who were all under the PBC promotion. We can only hope over the coming years the 2 promotion companies can work together to make some of the huge fights at welterweight. Terence Crawford's boxing style. As mentioned in the title of this video, Crawford has a complete boxing style where he adapts to what type of boxing style his opponent has. Due to this, Crawford's boxing IQ is exceptional, where we have seen him box by using a range of tactics and techniques, including applying pressure, counterpunching, defensive maneuverability, infighting, and power shots with tremendous finishing ability. One of the most difficult aspects his competition finds in the ring is his ease and ability to switch from southpaw to orthodox or vice versa, as he is comfortable to box from both stances. However, he will more often than not box from a southpaw position in most cases, as most of the orthodox fighters he has faced to date have struggled with the American in this stance. This is without a doubt a style Crawford has perfected over his whole career, which is very unique to see today in modern boxing, as it takes years to perfect one stance and he is still able to apply all the techniques comfortably either way. Switching and southpaw stance. Crawford primarily fights mostly out of a southpaw stance and will tend to use this against most of the opponents he comes up against, as I just mentioned. When up against orthodox fighters, he will tend to still fight in a southpaw stance more often than not, but will switch mid-round or even for a full round depending on how the opponent is approaching the fight. His relaxed movement in his stance often sees orthodox fighters overcommit and get hit by powerful counters. It also helps he keeps himself at a comfortable range, especially with his longer reach considering his height of 5'8". Against southpaws, he's tended to stay as a southpaw himself, due to the unusual style matchup that it brings to them, and will often use this to counter with body shots, as we saw in the Julius and Dongo fight. He almost appears ambidextrous at times, which is the ability to use both hands or feet just as well as the other, but he has simply just perfected both stances depending on the situation he is in. The jab and parry. Now, Crawford's jab is probably one of the most underrated aspects of his game. Now, when you think of Terence Crawford, it's obviously the switch hitting or southpaw stance that comes to mind. But Crawford's jab is probably one of the most underrated aspects of his game, where the Nebraska fighter will use this primarily as a rangefinder or to parry his opponent, counter over the top, or even set up counter punches. When he switches to orthodox, his jab is often used to apply pressure, so he can set up his deadly left or right hooks that have shaken or taken down many opponents in the past. You'll also often see Crawford use subtle feints with his lead hand to keep his opposition guessing or on the back foot. Defense and counterpunching. Bud's footwork is definitely a big part of his defensive game, and it also often gets overlooked, but this is a part of his overall boxing IQ. He will often shuffle back in straight lines and use pivots left or right and circle round his opposition using lateral steps in his footwork, especially when he is on the back foot. By using his feet as his main defense, he's very elusive and hard to hit for anyone that has faced him, showing the importance of being able to train your feet. In terms of Crawford's counterpunching, it often comes in the form of right hooks. He usually catches orthodox stance fighters off guard when they throw a jab. Once Bud knows he has them hurt, he will go on full offense to apply pressure, throwing left hooks, straight punches, or even changing stance to completely catch them off guard. Pressure fighting and finishing. Right now, Terence Crawford is without a doubt one of the best finishers in boxing, especially when you consider he has fought in numerous world title fights since 2014. As just mentioned, Crawford will often counter his opponent with a powerful left or right hook once they have overcommitted the jab or offense in general. In most cases, that immediately puts his competitor on the back foot as they look to defend themselves. Crawford will then apply by throwing a flurry of combination attacks to the body and head from different angles, which has often resulted in the end of the fight. In terms of negatives, he does leave himself open at times and has been clipped himself, but more often than not, he's able to take a punch. The risk and reward ratio usually favours him due to his power to finish off his challengers once he has them hurt. Adaptability to any style. Now, Crawford's overall ability to adapt to any opponent's style proves he's one of the most complete fighters, and he knows styles make fights, so adapts accordingly to who he's facing and not necessarily fighting the same way every fight. This is what makes Crawford one of the world's best boxers today in my opinion. Obviously, being able to fight from both stances is a huge factor, but it's his boxing IQ and development of fighting many boxing styles over the years that has made him so successful. I highly recommend you check out Lee Wiley's video and where he demonstrates Crawford's brilliance of adapting to these different styles. Final thoughts. For me, Terence Crawford is a joy to watch as he's a proven finisher and can adapt to anything thrown at him in the ring. It will be interesting to see if he will go up against the likes of Errol Spence Jr. one day, which will no doubt be one of the next big super fights in boxing. And I really hope we will get to see these two pound for pound stars fight one day. In terms of what we can learn from Crawford, I personally recommend perfecting your natural stance. However, being able to switch stance is a very important aspect in your training depending on who your opponent is or the position to get yourself in the ring. I highly recommend you watch Crawford if you're a boxer who likes to switch stances, as you can see how he does it so effortlessly. So that wraps up this boxing style analysis, guys. Let me know in the comments below what you think of Crawford's switch stancing style, and why not check out my analysis on his future opponent Errol Spence Jr. As always, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button. If you're new here, please subscribe. As always guys, thanks so much for the support and thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.